Food spends many hours traveling through the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, and small intestine. In fact, by the time a food remnant reaches the end of the small intestine, it has been traveling for the better part of a day. Now, even though that might sound like a long time, the food remnant still has up to a day or two to go as it travels through your large intestine. The main things left to do are to dry out the undigested food remnant by absorbing water and eliminate the useless waste from the body. In this lesson, you will learn about the functions of the large intestine and how the body eliminates waste from the digestive tract. Since most nutrient absorption was completed in the small intestine, we see that the inner mucosal lining of the large intestine is lacking the projections that increase nutrient absorption called villi. This gives the inner lining of the large intestine a somewhat smooth appearance when compared to the inner lining of the small intestine. However, the mucosa of the large intestine does contain a large number of goblet cells. Goblet cells are specialized epithelial cells that secrete mucus. Specifically, goblet cells are a variation of the simple columnar epithelial cells that we have encountered throughout the digestive tract. The name goblet refers to the cell's goblet-like shape. The top of the cell resembles a cup, and the bottom of the cell resembles a stem. Now, the mucus produced by the goblet cells act as a lubricant to ease the passage of feces, which is the waste material eliminated from the large intestine. Now, we saw in the esophagus and the small intestine that food was propelled by a process called peristalsis, which is a wave-like series of muscular contractions. Peristalsis also aids food propulsion in the large intestine. However, it's more sluggish here than what we saw in earlier parts of the digestive tract. Instead of peristalsis as the main form of food propulsion through the large intestine, we see something called mass movements. Mass movements are long, slow-moving but powerful contractile waves that move through the large intestine about 3 or 4 times a day. These periodic mass movements are mostly responsible for the propulsion of contents through your large intestine. And it's interesting to note that bulk or fiber in your diet increases the strength of these contractions and softens feces, allowing the large intestine to function more efficiently. Now, it's interesting to note that there's a fair amount of bacteria that reside in your large intestine. These bacteria actually serve a purpose, and that is to metabolize some of the remaining nutrients that pass into your large intestine. However, this metabolism results in the release of gases, namely methane and hydrogen sulfide, which, as you might guess, is what contributes to the odor of feces. These bacteria also make some vitamin K as well as some B vitamins. And these vitamins are absorbed by the large intestine along with some ions, but the chief product absorbed out of your large intestine is water. Water reabsorption is a main function of the large intestine. It can absorb 300 milliliters or about 1.5 cups of water a day. Now, this water removal dries out the feces, and if food moves through the large intestine too quickly, it will not have a sufficient time to absorb water, which will result in the passage of watery stool or diarrhea. By contrast, when food residue remains in the large intestine for an extended period of time, too much water can be absorbed. This can result in constipation, which is defined as a hard stool or difficulty passing stool. Constipation may be due to a lack of fiber in your diet. As feces travels through the large intestine and moves into the rectum, the wall is stretched and pressure within the rectum increases, and this creates an urge to defecate. Defecation is the elimination of feces from the digestive tract. If defecation is to occur, the feces moves into the anal canal, which we previously learned is the final stop for feces before exiting the body. If the urge to defecate is denied, feces is prevented from descending into the anal canal by one of 2 anal sphincters. Now, we've encountered sphincters in a number of different areas of the digestive tract, and a sphincter is simply a ring of muscle that controls an opening. So the anal sphincters are defined as rings of muscle that control the exit of feces through the anus. The anus is the opening at the end of the digestive tract through which feces leaves the body. There's 2 anal sphincters. The internal anal sphincter is composed of smooth muscle and is under involuntary control. This internal sphincter remains tightly closed until defecation is allowed to occur. When defecation is allowed, the internal anal sphincter relaxes and feces moves from the rectum to the anal canal. And at this time, you still have some control over defecation due to the external anal sphincter. The external anal sphincter is composed of striated muscle and is under voluntary control. So as feces moves into the anal canal, messages are transmitted to your brain, giving you time to make a decision as to whether the external sphincter should remain open to allow the passage of feces. If it's not convenient for you to go to the bathroom at that time, defecation can be temporarily denied until a more convenient time by voluntarily constricting the external anal sphincter muscles. Let's review. The mucosa of the large intestine contains a large number of goblet cells, which are specialized epithelial cells that secrete mucus. The mucus acts as a lubricant to ease the passage of feces, which is the waste material eliminated from the large intestine. Material is mainly propelled through the large intestine by periodic mass movements. Mass movements are long, slow-moving but powerful contractile waves that move through the large intestine about 3 or 4 times a day. While there are some vitamins and ions absorbed in the large intestine, the chief product absorbed by your large intestine is water. If the contents of the large intestine move too quickly, there will not be sufficient time to absorb water, and the results will be a passage of watery stool called diarrhea. By contrast, when food residue remains in the large intestine for an extended period of time, too much water can be absorbed, resulting in constipation, which is defined as hard stool or difficulty passing stool. Defecation is the elimination of feces from the digestive tract. Defecation is controlled by 2 anal sphincters, which are rings of muscle that control the exit of feces through the anus. The anus is the opening at the end of the digestive tract through which feces leaves the body. There are 2 anal sphincters. The internal anal sphincter is composed of smooth muscle and is under involuntary control. The external anal sphincter is composed of striated muscle and is under voluntary control.